Okay.
Good.
Good.
All right. So welcome, Dr. Michelle Maidenberg.
Well,
I wanted everyone to meet you because I am so grateful for the work that we have done together. And for those who don't know, my husband passed away in November of 2020, and I knew right away that I needed to see a therapist. And the reason I knew that is because I struggled with postpartum depression for over 2 years. So I am so grateful that I was referred to you, and I wanted everyone to meet you and to explain, or in your words, try to understand what is EMDR and why it's so transformative. Like, it really has changed my life. And so I wanted everybody to meet you and to understand this therapy that's available to them. So if we can just start and tell us about yourself and your business, please.
yeah. So, Tara, I have to say that the fact that you're putting it out here, yeah, really, and you're just, you're really being so transparent is so much to your credit.
Thank
And
you.
it really speaks to your personal growth. So I really want to say that because it's really hard to talk about these things in general.
Yeah.
And then also, there's such a stigma, as you know, in regards to therapy and what that means, and how you see yourself. And the fact that you're trying to help other people by using yourself is just really incredible. So I really want to put that out there.
Thank you.
Um, so Michelle Maidenberg. So I have a private practice in Harrison, New York, and I wear a lot of hats. I teach a graduate mindfulness course at NYU in the fall and the spring and the summer semesters. And the treatments that I primarily use in my therapy is CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. I use also family therapy, which is strategic family therapy, and EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Right.
Um,
So EMDR has been the biggest help to me. And as I've been sharing my story with other women, they have come back to me and said, "What is this EMDR? How can I find a practitioner?" So in simple terms, how does EMDR help people?
yeah. So I just wanted to add one more thing because
Oh,
it's,
sorry.
yeah, that's okay. So I have a nonprofit organization that's called Through My Eyes. It's
Yeah.
THRU. And we offer free clinically guided videotaping to chronically medically ill individuals who want to leave a video legacy for their children and loved ones. And
Amazing.
it's a national service. So I just wanted to really put that out there because it's an important service that I hope people know about.
Can I say I love that, because the one thing we have been craving is videos from Steve, and we don't have any. So I love that.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's been really therapeutic for people who have, videotaped. They come back to me years after, and they really appreciate it. So it's wonderful to be able to provide that service.
Yeah.
Um, so EMDR, in a nutshell, because it's a little complex. So talk therapy, what people tell me at least, and you've even shared this, that talk therapy is limited to some extent, right? Because when you're doing talk therapy, you're really dealing with your consciousness. In other words, what is in the realm of your consciousness? When you're doing these deeper, kind of therapies, you're working with your subconscious.
Mm.
So it integrates the conscious and the subconscious. You're getting a little bit deeper under the surface. And sometimes because we have these, these synapses, we don't know where it's going to go. We don't know the deeper, darker place that it's
Yeah.
going to filter into. And that happens. I have so many examples where I literally had no clue where it was going to take me. And it was so therapeutic for the person because they didn't even realize what was underneath it all.
Yeah.
So basically the bilateral, that we use bilateral stimulation. What is that? So you probably see that little machine behind me. So that is called a light bar. And we use our senses. What we do know, and this is according to science, and we're not sure why this happens, but when we experience any type of stuckness or trauma, it really literally gets stuck in between our prefrontal cortex and our amygdala. What are those?
Mhm.
So our prefrontal cortex houses our intellectual mind, and that's our processing and our learning, problem solving. And then our amygdala is our feeling center.
Mm.
So when, for example, we're in a fear response, we're in the fight or flight response, or freeze for that matter,
Yeah.
information literally gets stuck in between the right and left hemisphere, those two parts of the brain. And an example of that, and this is an example. So during 9/11, when people were at the scene and there was all that chaos going on and they heard a plane going overhead, obviously they saw that during their time, during the circumstance. And then after, what people were reporting is a very startled response when they heard a plane go overhead.
Mm.
And if you think about that, just logically, it doesn't really make sense
Yeah.
because they knew they were safe intellectually.
Mhm.
Before this ever happened, they never questioned their safety.
Yeah.
And the chances of this happening to them again was 1 in a million. So why were they having this really visceral response? And a lot of it was very somatic. So we know that it does get lodged. And why they were reacting that way, it was really from the amygdala, the fear. And it felt in the moment as if it was happening to them in the present moment, which obviously it wasn't. So that is where the stuckness happens. And, the quicker that you get treatment, I'm going to say, because they usually say that the memory, like even memories, consolidate within 3 to 6 months.
Mm.
So you want to try, and again, that doesn't always have to be the case. I've done EMDR on, for people who've been in situations or stuckness for many years. But again, if there is a trauma, a specific trauma, or like a single incident trauma, you want to try to get it between 3 and 6 months, because the goal also, even when you're doing it formatively for somebody who's experienced trauma for a period of years, let's say, you really want to create new pathways.
Yeah.
New neural pathways. And if you think about it, it's almost like, there's a certain pathway that gets created based on our perceptions and our responses and our adaptations. So you really want to create that new pathway.
Yeah.
You're opening up new pathways. That's the way to think about it.
And you explained it very clearly, because that's how I feel. And that's how I've been explaining it to people, is that it almost feels like it's came from the back of my mind. It like came out and is like gone. And another way I've been describing EMDR is that it's taken the emotion out of the trauma. So I can retell the story without shaking, without crying, without, the emotion isn't as strong as it was the first time telling the story.
Yeah.
So that was explained beautifully. So it does sort of get stuck, and then we forget about it.
Yeah. And, it becomes part of, the way that we see it, our experiences. We want to reach some post-traumatic growth.
Mm.
What happened to you is devastating.
Mhm.
And there's no way to make that okay.
Yeah.
And there's no way that you're not going to have a response to being triggered at times and, other things coming up, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
Because I always say, part of grief and loss, for example, is accepting the amount of love that we had, right? Yeah. And, so you're going to go through your emotions and that's okay, right? But it's learning to adapt to it in a new way so
Yeah.
that you can have growth moving forward. There's one thing also I wanted to say, because people are probably wondering, how do you do this, right?
Yeah.
And I pointed to the machine, but I didn't explain.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the bilateral stimulation is based on our senses. What we know about stuckness also is that it gets lodged in our senses.
Mhm.
So, right, taste, touch, hearing, etc. So what we do, and again, if I was doing, in office, which I'm now doing remote, but if I was doing in office, I would use 2 different devices. So that's a light bar, and it has all different colored lights. It has green, red, blue, because some actually colors trigger us too. Yeah. So it's a little light beam that kind of goes across, you follow it with your eyes and you don't move your neck. So that's one device I use. I use auditory, which is, again, we use earbuds or whatever the case is. And you actually hear, it's pretty cool, but you hear the light and the sounds, right? They collaborate. They have the same type of movement back and forth. Yeah. And then the other thing that I use is tappers. So what the tappers are, again, it is, you actually feel the vibration. So that's based on touch, right? So it's auditory, right? Visual, right? And tactile. And I only use 2 because 3 is definitely too overstimulating. But the most effective is the eye movement. So like remotely, I do the eye movements, through the screen, and that
Okay.
works just as well.
And are you doing in-person sessions again?
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing it again once kids are vaccinated. I have, 4 children, but 2 of my younger ones are not eligible to be vaccinated because their age. So, you know,
Okay. So
I'm gonna.
virtual sessions, but I must say it works virtually too, which
Yeah,
is
so we did
amazing.
virtual.
Yeah. So what was funny in my treatment, no, maybe you don't think it's funny, but I thought it was funny, is that a lot of what came up the moment the light went on was the same images during my postpartum depression, postpartum period.
Mm.
So moving forward, I'm working more with new moms, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. And what is something or some advice you can give to a new mom struggling with depression and anxiety?
So, with postpartum depression, it depends on everybody's individual. So I
Sure.
think, yeah, so I think what comes up for each person is different. It's
Yeah.
so hard to say like a blanket, kind of thing. But I'm going to just say that generally, transitions are very difficult, especially a transition like being a new mom. And even if you're a
Or a
mom
mom
for,
of twins.
yeah, a mom or being a mom for the second time and third time, like I said, I have 4 children, so I totally get it.
That's right.
And each experience is so unique,
Yeah.
um, right? Because it brings on new challenges, and your body. I have to say this too. Your body changes with each one. Your body changes differently.
That's right.
Yeah. So it depends on what's coming up. Sometimes there's, like, chemically speaking, there's underlying depression because all of the hormones and everything that's going on. So sometimes it's important to be treated with medication, or, and even more importantly, herbal, right, treatments, and more
Yeah.
holistic approaches. I always recommend that first.
Yeah.
Um, if that doesn't work, we use obviously medication, but in conjunction with that, sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes it's really helpful to be able to get the emotional support,
Absolutely.
because the issue with depression and anxiety, and I treat a lot of people with depression and anxiety, it's it's layers. It's not just the depression anxiety, it's how you struggle with the depression anxiety. What I
Yeah.
mean by that is how you respond to it. So what we do sometimes is we don't want those feelings because they're uncomfortable, right? And our executive mind, what does it say? It says avoid, discard, you know,
Yeah.
any uncomfortable feelings. It
Mhm.
chronically does that. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to distract and avoid, and we'll try to use all these fancy, right, management tools to be able to really eliminate, right, this anxiety and depression. And of course it doesn't work, because if it's chemical or you're actually going through some transition that's really difficult, your mind, when you try to disregard it and when you try to pull away from it, it actually exacerbates it, intensifies it. And then
Mm.
you have the additional layer of beating yourself up because of it.
Yeah.
You get really angry at yourself, and you may be disparaging against yourself for not being able to manage it.
Yeah.
What does this say about me that I have depression? What does that say about me that I'm a new mom? Look at all the new moms walking around, and they're saying, I'm so happy that I have this beautiful baby, and nothing could make me sad even for a moment, because all I do is cradle my baby and I'm so thrilled, right?
Yeah.
And that's their perspective. And even though somebody may be struggling, they're not reporting it to you,
That's right. Yeah.
right? So then you struggle with all these heavy feelings of disappointment and frustration with yourself.
Yeah.
And that affects your confidence. It affects your self-compassion and your self, efficacy, and so many different aspects of it. And those are the things that are really important to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one more piece that I also want to add, it has to do also with your experiences and your life prior to having a baby.
It's so true.
I can't say that enough. Our coping skills, okay? We develop coping skills from when we're little.
Yeah.
And those coping skills, will vary based on who parented us,
Hmm.
whether we had emotional, right, and, support, and on and on and on. Our social experiences, like there's our gender, our religion, our race,
Well,
societal
yes.
centers.
And
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened, right? Is trauma I had before the kids is what was coming up postpartum. I didn't take care of it. I pushed, 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 and then it came up again. So two fears, I was thinking of this earlier, two fears that moms have said to me is number one, fear of being judged by their therapist. And I must say that I've never, ever felt that with you. And that I loved how you reflected my words and held a container for my thoughts. So I think that is one benefit to using a therapist is that you're being heard, you're being seen, you're being recognized. It's not like speaking to a friend where, you know, the friend is certainly supporting you, but they're not holding that space for you. The second concern I've heard, which I'd love your opinion on, is the fear of their children being taken away.
Oh, wow. Hmm.
I know. I thought of that today and I was like, I don't know the answer to this. So is that something you can answer or no?
Yeah, I could try.
So women with postpartum depression have a fear of seeing a therapist for that they will have their children taken away.
Okay.
And that's a deep fear.
Yeah, and that's very concerning, obviously.
Yeah.
So one thing is I so appreciate what you said. I wanted to just say that. And I feel so what's the word? I guess proud that I could provide that kind of environment. And it feels so good to be validated in that way because I try my best to obviously provide that kind of setting and trust and openness. So you just gave me a gift. So I just wanted to say that. I really mean that. So that's one. The second is in terms of you asked. I'll get to the children taken away first because it sounds like that was really important. And then you'll remind me the second question because I got so wrapped up in that I think I
So it's
lost it.
just, that was the only one. I sort of answered the first one,
Okay.
that women are afraid they'll be judged. And I must say that it's about finding the right therapist because I certainly never felt judged by you.
Okay. So
So
I will say something about that too, though. There was one thing I wanted to add to that. So thank you. So in terms of the children being taken away, again, that fear fundamentally, if you think about it, has to do with the way you're perceiving yourself.
Mm,
Like, why would your children be taken away?
mhm,
What does that mean to you? And
yeah,
I think if you think about that, that would be like when we do the EMDR, we do a target, right? What is the negative belief about yourself that's coming up?
that's right.
So it's not about the children being taken away,
Yeah,
right? It's something negative that you're thinking about yourself that you're fearful of putting yourself in a position whereby which will result in your children being taken away.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
And again, that's a very intuitive thing. Like in other words, I don't know. And again, I get that because of my training. I get that because of intuitively, right, trying to think about what negative self-belief is coming up that would cause you to kind of go into that place. Because that is, if you think about it, having postpartum depression and then going to the place of my children will be taken away. It really is from here to here, isn't it?
Mm, yeah,
Because there's a lot of things that happen before your children get taken away.
right.
Yeah, right?
That's an example where therapy is so individual
Yeah.
and you need so much more than herbs, supplements, and like this is the deep work. And when you see a therapist that you enjoy and that you can have success with, you just your personal growth
Mm.
is just what's the word I'm looking for, like it's fast, right? It happens within an hour, like within your time, maybe 24 hours or so, rather than struggling for years. So it's
Yeah.
that personal connection that you get, that personal development.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's exponential, right? If you
Yeah.
think about it, it's exponential. So, when I talked about the children being taken away, I would want to understand what that is for that person. What's going on for them that's making them feel so much self-doubt in that moment? Is it that they feel, and this is what I hear a lot from people who have postpartum, like, I feel like I'm going to lose it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm never going to be myself again. I'm scared, like deep fears that come up because, a lot of people have never had that level of depression
Right.
before,
That's right.
right? So this is like new, it's scary, it's new territory. And if you think about it, that is really scary,
Yeah.
because the way that I hear, individuals describing it is that they just can't, like, right, they can't get out of bed in the morning. They can't be emotionally connected to their child, which
Yeah.
is so, again, we're taught, oh my God, you see this beautiful baby and you lock eyes with them and you're in love. But
Yeah.
then, right, when you're having depression, what happens with depression, unfortunately, is you get very insular. So it's
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
it's almost like a fetal position where you're literally just surviving, right? When you're in that position, you can't be giving to somebody else. You feel so disconnected that giving anything is difficult.
Yeah.
So the concern, I'm not going to bond with my child, I'm not going to connect with my child, I'm detrimentally affecting my child,
Yes.
right? Which then turns into what's wrong with me and I'm a horrible person
I
and
have
I'm not a good parent.
anxiety now because I'm asking women more about their anxiety, and there's a huge fear of passing it on to their children.
Yes. But again, if I say, what's the negative belief about yourself?
Yeah,
What do I hear? I'm going to be like my own parents.
that's right. Yeah.
I tried so hard to be different and I'm fearful I'm going to be like them.
Yeah.
Or if I'm like that, right, then how could I live with myself? There's so many things that come up, and that's very formative too,
Yeah.
right? That's very formative.
Well, thank you. This was super helpful. I could talk to you forever. But
Can I just say one thing about the judgment?
of course, yeah.
Like,
Mm.
about the judgment is, yes, I have to say that it's so important to find the right therapist, and I
Yeah.
can't say that enough.
Yeah.
And it's okay to go shopping, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
To meet with more than one person. Again, if you feel comfortable with the person, right away, that's great. But I'm saying that if you don't feel that you could really be forthcoming and trust, that's not going to allow you to put yourself and commit to the process and have agency over the process. So that's number one. The second thing is the difference between friends and really being able to speak to a therapist is, again, friends are biased. They are, and the other thing that comes up with friends, and for every person, particularly women, I'm going to say, and I know for myself too, is the fear of judgment,
Yes.
right?
But
And
you're
then
not going to share everything because of that fear. Yeah.
yeah, and you want a space where you could really authentically be yourself.
Yeah.
You could, just really express yourself and be authentic and really meet your own integrity.
Yes.
So whatever that takes, I would say to seek it out.
Yes. Thank you. And I must say, therapy has helped with that. So I thank you for that,
Oh, great.
because I wish I did it many, many years ago.
Oh, and
So,
I have to say also, what I appreciated about you, Tara, is you said that up front to me. You said,
mm.
I'm very reluctant, right? I don't know if this is gonna work.
Oh,
Yeah,
did I?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that this is gonna be helpful for me. And
Ah.
I love when people come and they really put it out there and they express their concerns.
I
And
didn't realize I said that.
well, most people do actually. They're like, or they express fear. I don't know how this works, or I don't know how it's going to work, or is this going to really help me? Am I wasting my time? They express their fears. So I love when people are transparent. And you know what I tell them? I say to them, you know, like, are you willing to invest in yourself? And you know what, if this is not working, or if you have a concern, or if there's something that I said that didn't work, like, let me know. Like, I'm so open to talking about that. And also, I don't want you to buy into this.
Right.
I don't want you to. I want you to experience it and then say to me, wow, this was transformative. I don't want you to just think it was, or say it was just because I'm saying it. I
That's
want you
right.
to really experience it.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's many walls put up when they first meet with you. So I hope this has helped some women, some people to overcome that fear, that stigma of meeting with a therapist, because I must say it's been truly amazing. And I thank you for the work that you've been doing. And it is transformative. And so let everybody know, where can they find you?
Sure. So my website is my name, which is michellemaidenberg.com, and that's two L's, and it's MAIDENBERG.com. I'm also a blogger for Psychology Today, just so you know. And I also have a YouTube channel which has guided meditations, and I film 2 guided meditations weekly. That's on the
Okay.
YouTube channel. And I have all different kinds of articles on all different topics, parenting, depression, anxiety, mindfulness, etc. So, and
Awesome.
Through My Eyes is THRU, myeyes.org.
Good. And then when I put it on my website, I'll put those links below. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too. So I'm just going to